Okay, so I think we can get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Healthcare AI Forum. My name is Yuan, host of the forum. So today, I'm really glad to welcome Laurent Landowski from Nabla. So he's the Chief Product Officer at Nabla, and where he leads product strategy and drives the company's vision to develop AI-powered tools that improve the clinician experience. With over 20 years of experience in tech and product management, Laurent has built and scaled products to power enterprise growth. Prior to Nabla, he was a product management lead at Meta and founded Wig.ai, which is an AI platform for building conversational interfaces, which was later acquired by Meta. Laurent is passionate about AI innovation and product-led growth and is committed to building solutions that reduce clinician burnout and allow them to focus their time on patient care. And today he's joining us from Paris. So let's give him a warm welcome. And Laurent, the stage is yours.
Thanks, Warren, for the warm introduction and the welcome. Very happy to be here, and and very happy also to discuss what the topic of today, and hopefully make it good learning experience for you. The topic that we decided to share with you is just to get back to the lessons that we have learned from really the last 3 years in deploying ambient AI in real-world settings. And so for those who are not familiar with ambient AI, I will go through this. I will even do a quick demo so that we can all understand exactly what it is. But while most of my example will be about ambient AI, I think it's very easy to actually expand this to any type of generative AI or any type of AI or agentic um, work and products that will likely be much more roll out and broad in terms of use in the near future. So at Nabla, so we were I think the first company 3 years ago to launch an ambient, a full AI ambient solution, and so we have learned in the last 3 years over more than 180 deployments in the US, whether this is big health system, or whether this is smaller clinics. We have learned a lot of things regarding what it means to deploy such an AI solution. My objective today, and hopefully we'll be able to achieve it, is to help you identify key design principle and that you can actually refer to, and that will help you to deploy or to roll out some of these new AI technologies, and to make sure that it works well, it's basically sustainable, trustworthy, and it's actually had the value to your clinical workflows. First thing first, what is an ambient AI solution? And why it's important. It's basically a technology that can bridge the gap really between human communications and non-structured information that can be exchanged during a visit and an encounter into structure and codified concepts that are in the EHR or any other tool that you may be using. So it's really a great tool to be able to start automating some of the things because it will bridge the gap between something that is messy, like a patient-doctor conversation, into something that is structured. I said I will do a quick demo because I think it's a good way to get started. So for those who are not familiar with an ambient AI solution, it's very simple. What you see here on my screen is the web version of Nabla, not integrated. It's actually something that you can go and try for free on nabla.com for a month. Obviously, we are deeply integrated with EHRs, and we will get back to this in this presentation. But just to give you a very overall concept of what is an ambient AI solution, I will just go and pretend I'm a doctor, and I will just, do a very quick fake visits with myself to see how it goes. Okay, so as a doctor, usually I get the consent of my patient, and then I just start the visit by clicking on Start Encounter. And in this case here, I just, hey, I'm Laurent, I'm your doctor. I'm very happy you're here. What's bringing you here today? Oh, I have terrible headaches. Oh, when did it started? Oh, it started a few days ago. All right. Sorry to hear that. Do you have any symptoms or any other symptoms like fever? No fever. Any thrills or any sore throat? No, I don't have any sore throats. It's just the headaches. Okay. Have you traveled to any countries recently? No, I haven't traveled to any countries. Actually, I went to Paris in France, but it was 2 months ago, so I don't think it's maybe related, right? And all right, what about do you have any medical histories that I should be aware of? I think my mother has type 2 diabetes, but I think that's it. All right, let me do a very quick physical exam so that I understand if everything goes well. Your heart sounds fine. Your lungs are clear. I don't see anything here. So, very quickly, I think it's probably just, a tension, headaches, and it probably going to is going probably to go away in a few days. What I would recommend is getting some ibuprofen, 400 milligrams for 5 days, for you know, uh, 3 times a day, and drink a lot of fluids because I think it may be important to get to stay hydrated. And after a few days, I think it should go the ways. If not, just reach out to me. Do you have any question? Patient obviously is a nice here. We say no, and then that's it. And so at the end, I just click generate the notes. Okay. And as a clinician, then I can go back to my desk if I did this on my phone, or just look at Nabla here, or directly into my EHR in order to get the structure medical notes. As you can see here, we actually see a structure medical note that I can zoom in, on chief complaints, HPI, family history, and a few others. This is this account, so this you may have seen a few things here and there. So that's what is an ambient AI solution. It's turning your conversation with the patient into a structure medical note uh, in a typical scenario where it's not a fake encounter and it's not a fake doctor. You know the the note maybe will look like a soap note like this, so with much verbose regarding the subjective, an objective section, and an assessment and plan. With ICD-10 code where you can actually do update a few things. So that's for the demo. I hope it brings some context regarding what an AI ambient solution is for those who are not aware. All right, so what does it take to actually launch such a solution? Uh, the first thing seems obvious, uh, but is actually critical. Is how to, and we have asked ourselves this question at the beginning: how do we get clinicians to just try AI? And trust is not built through claims of accuracy. It's really based, I think, on three things: transparency. So being able to really be transparent regarding what you do, including with the data, and explaining how it works. I think this is very important. Clinicians really are eager to understand how it works. So that's the first. Second is control, really giving control over the technology. So that's you're always in control as a clinician. As you've seen in the demo, uh, you always can actually then edit, change, review the note before it gets signed. So it's very important to give control to build trust. The third one, I think, is very important, especially in the healthcare system where it's a notorious industry, usually that's moved very slowly in term of either customer supports or even in feature changes and changing product and bug fix and so on. So being able to really show a clinician that you can actually listen to their feedback and iterate on their feedback is very important. At Nabla, for instance, we have a rule that all the feedback that we get from clinicians using our products should be addressed within 2 hours. And it's really something that is really helping building the trust. And then there is also the trust outcome. So how do you get that clinician feel comfortable letting some AI handle part of their cognitive load? So I think here it's really more about the value that you can provide and showing by example. So we'll get back to this item, but really trust is a big prerequisite for any AI type of project. There are three keys to as soon as you have built trust and you've tested this, to lasting adoption and having an impact. The first thing is non-disruptive insertion in the workflow. Very important because we know clinicians, they have already too many tools to use, too many workflows. So in order for an AI project or product to be able to work well, it has to be deeply integrated into the existing workflows. It has to work seamlessly, reliably, and latency. So if going back to the trust, if your system is down, for a few hours, and as a clinician, you have relied on this to actually take the notes and build the draft of your documentation, then you lose the trust and you're always then on the lookout because you never know whether at some point the product will break, and so you will have to do it the old way and manually the old way. So these are very important. Being deeply integrated into the EHR is also very, very important because ultimately this is where clinicians spend most of their time today. Side note on this, I would argue that currently ambient AI products is where clinicians actually spend most of their time because they have to use it during the visit. So it will last. So when I use Nabla on my phone, I will use it for the length or the duration of the visits. And so if you have 10 or 20 visits a day, then you have used the product and the solution. So way more than actually the amount of time that you spend on an EHR. That being said, it's very important that it's starting the EHR. It can be inside the EHR, this technology, which is the type of integration that we support with Epic or Cerner or Athena, where you can use Nabla inside Epic so that it's in the workflow that you use, and it's very easy. That's the first principle. Second principle is really about the data, what we call data fidelity. Fidelity here is really making sure that it's mapped back to what you're doing. And so if you use to document a certain way with a specific section and a specific format, the ambient AI solution needs to adapt to you and needs to be able to give you the data that you would have typed other way, or you would have checked or clicked other way. So that's also very important. The last principle is regarding metrics, obviously, and this is very important to track all the different metrics to identify the change of behaviors, the value of of such a technology, and so that you can also identify where it can be improved. But no deployment is static, and what we have seen in the last 3 years is that the keys to a successful scale and continuing to improve and scale and increase the adoption rely on three things. The first thing is what we call adaptive rollouts. And so this is very important. And we get the question all the time when we have a new client or a new group of providers or clinicians. What is the best way to actually roll out your technology? The reality is that it's really depend on your health system and on how it's currently works. What is the thing that works best for your health system? And so we have seen different approaches with different needs regarding, for instance, training and such as distance learning with scheduled training session, one-on-one practice session with provider, self-service online materials works great if you are in a health system or hospital that actually have a great platform for this or promote this, and so there is already a usage on this. But yeah, you need to actually have, and sometimes it's a combination, obviously, of different approaches, because sometimes for some specialty or some departments, it will work better one way or another. In terms of change management, even if you try to have a product that is as simple and as intuitive as possible, which at Nabla we are trying to always care for this, because we know clinicians don't have time to learn a new tool, don't have time to be trained. Even if you have this, there is still a little bit of change management, and so a few things that we have noticed is that, especially for piloting, first, it's great to identify the right candidate for such a project. What we recommend when we start pilots or in rollout is to identify a wide range of providers or clinicians. And not only the one that you think will be the right candidates because they are tech savvy, because they get excited or so on. Otherwise, you will have a biased metrics and outcome following the pilot. So we recommend really to have like a broad set of specialties, people that are more or less tech savvy, in order to actually understand how this technology can work for different group of providers and clinicians. Very important to monitor, obviously, to review the metrics regularly. And something that we have seen also that works very well is to identify and sync with champions, what we call champions. So these are the ones that will quickly, after a few days, will really use the product over and over, and will be able to actually share some of their best practice and increase the adoption around them. So I think that's also something that is critical. So that's one of the first key. The second key is regarding performance evaluation. And so how do you measure the outcome of an AI solution? It's back to the why. It's back to what is the value that the product that you are rolling out. In our case, specifically for the AI Ambient, it's the value is obviously a lot regarding the clinician well-being, but also the patients, you will see. And so some of the metrics that we are tracking, constantly with our client, for instance, for this specific ambient AI solution, are about the experience of provider. So the note rating, for instance, so providers using our technology can rate the notes that is generated at the end of the encounter with a 5-star rating. And so we use that as a signal, obviously. Retention rates, so how many people that get access to the technology and continue to use it after a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. You see that for Macfillan here, there's an 80% retention rate, which is great. It's also a lot about the clinician well-being, whether this is reduction of your documentation time. So at Cal Health, for instance, um, save at least 1 hour in documentation time per week for more than 55% of their user. We also measure the decrease in physician burnout because ultimately technology is supposed to remove the admin burden of remembering everything that happens during the visit and typing during the visit, the notes or after the visit. Also have an impact on, for some organizations, and not all of organizations are looking at this, but some organizations are looking at, uh, the appointments and the number of appointments that they can actually do then. The one that is very important here, I think, is the one on the top left, because it talks to the patient experience. And one of the key reasons we actually build this technology at Nabla is to also try to help with the patient side of it. And so Denver Health actually measure a 15 points improvement in the patient satisfaction score. Um, you can see also in a New England Journal of Medicine article uh, a, um, a similar improvement in terms of patient satisfaction that was measured by Kaiser in California uh, when we uh, when we actually supported Kaiser with our Ambient solution. It's very important, and it's just because clinicians using an Ambient AI solution will actually spend more quality time with the patients. They won't look at their computer or desktop anymore. And so that's really help. And patients actually, when we survey them, they see that the clinician or the doctors is actually much more present in the visit. And so this is really something that is important. The last piece of metric that is not here, but that is very important for some stakeholders, obviously, um, is regarding the revenue side of it. Okay. These ambient AI solutions are not only a great tool to support a physician, it's also a great tool to make sure there is not money left on the table from your hospital. And the reality is that because we can listen to what's happened during an encounter. We can also predict the different billing codes, whether this is a level 3 or level 4 E&M codes, whether this is ICD-10 diagnosis code. We can actually do this, and we can also work on making your documentation much more specific. And as you know, the more specific it is, the more likely that it will get the right reimbursements when it's submitted to the insurer. So very important. We have some metrics that I think we already shared, like 16% increase in WRVU, which is a way to measure revenue, the revenue value, per patient. So this technology not only drive clinician and provider satisfaction, but also productivity and ultimately revenue. All right, the last key is something that is very important, especially in our days. And so I'll start by saying that it's really incredible to think that 3 years ago, a bit more than 3 years ago, this technology did not exist. And now ambient solutions are everywhere, and it's like a must-have. And so especially in an industry that is notorious to be slow to adoption, what we are seeing with AI solution in healthcare is that because there is such a need, we actually it's actually moved very fast. And on the other side, the technology aspect of it, the models behind the scene are also moving incredibly fast. And so how do you make sure that what you've built or what you're about to deploy will still be relevant in 6 months? So that's definitely finding the right partners that can continue to iterate, innovate, and push for innovation. And the long-term workflow optimization is based on looking at obviously uh, the workflows, understanding that for some specialty or some departments or some care settings, it's a little bit different. So adapting quickly the product to support some workflows. So you may have heard, but initially a lot of the ambient was just ambulatory. Now it's now exposed and deployed to ED, to inpatients, but also in care coordination, nursing, and so on. So how do you continue to make sure you identify workflows where such a technology or the adaptation of this technology can help? Um, it's all about also designing and co-designing with some of our partner on um, how we actually tweak the products. And finally, it's really about the continuous improvements and making sure that you have a partner or a technology that can adapt very fast. Um, as Juan mentioned, in my previous experience at Meta, we were updating, our apps, whether this was Messenger, WhatsApp, or Facebook, or Instagram, uh, almost, I think it was every day. So imagine every day there is a new version of Instagram you are not aware of, but every day it's changed. Okay, it still happen right now. This is very fast, continuous improvement. Um, Actually, we decided to take the same approach at Nabla, and so 4 or 5 days a week, we improve and we update the product. Obviously, a lot of time it's tiny updates, improving in quality that is you may not see as a provider. Uh, we can actually also prepare and progressively roll out some bigger features. But every day, every working day, Nabla is actually pushing a new version of the product. I think this is very important. A quick example of this is I don't know if you saw, but I think it was in mid-December, there was a class action related to patient consents for use of such a technology. You can go and check it online, but there was a class action with one of the health systems in California. So for two-party states, there is actually an obligation of getting at least verbal consent, right? In this case, it's not clear whether in the documentation the provider actually just said that he got the consent without having asked the consent, or whether this was the patient that actually didn't remember that the doctor actually said that. Okay, and so we realized that it was actually something that could be helpful, and so within a week, I think we were able to actually develop this adaptation to the workflow where we can show a patient consent reminder, as you can see here in light purple, at the beginning of the encounter when you start Nabla. Okay, just as a reminder for providers to actually not forget to actually ask for this. And because it's during the encounter, you can actually tie this to a functionality that we have called dot phrase on our side that will, if you say the patient consents during the visit, will actually be able to automatically document it into your notes. Very important, because then you can go to and actually prove that your providers actually ask the consent, because then you can go back to the transcripts and see that in the transcript it was asked. So something again very important, uh, small but important to act very quickly in order to help our clients. And so this is something that's shipped very quickly. In this part, I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the implementation because this is, I think, there is a lot of a lot of success here, or lack of success. So at Nabla, the way we approach the implementation is, I think, one of our key differentiator is it involves resources, processes, and people on both sides, obviously. Um, and when it's done right, this is where you see like great adoption and great partnership. And so obviously the health system or the client uh, play a crucial role in the success of a deployment. And so usually they say, what are the most important thing is definitely there are critical resources. So having someone that can be an executive sponsor of your AI initiative, very important. Really like maximize the onboarding of providers and encouraging, as I mentioned already in this presentation, a provider feedback loop. So that's very important. Usually, what we see on when we actually deploy an ambient AI solution at the customer, uh, usually we have a product leader that is our primary point of contact. We have, as I mentioned, clinical champions that can help also at the elbow, and we have IT staff to help with the integration with the HR or the analyst and data security team. That's usually at least what it takes to on the health system side. On our side, we have implementation managers, customer success managers, even some engineers sometimes, um, and technical solution architect that can help really during the implementation and the rollouts. This might seem a little bit trivial here, but working with people with the right mindset really can change everything. And it's easier when this is something that is actually demanded by your clinicians. And so we have been very lucky at Nabla because we always had like very engaged providers, very enthusiastic, excited, either by the technology or by just um, the outcome of the technology and what it can do for them. And so we have been to countless, on sites with provider and clinician. It's great to see the reaction. It's great to see how mind blowing the reaction is. And so this is very something that is very, very important. Um, is having some engaged providers. Unfortunately, some of the AI projects may not be as valuable. And so this is where you would probably have spend a bit of time to try to find the one that are engaged or not. For ambient technology, it's really not a question here. Um, the leadership of the clients need also to be very proactive, but we are also here to help. So that's an important thing. I wanted to also share a quick example that is very concrete with one of our clients, University of Iowa Healthcare. September 2024, they decided to go to have like what we call a big bang approach, where they actually open Nabla after a pilot. They said, okay, let's give access Nabla to all of our providers at once. And so on day one, 400 providers register and use it. After a month, 900 out of the 3,000 eligible providers adopted the technology. There was just organic adoption without any, training or anything. And then we did what University of Iowa call an Ambient 2.0 launch, where we basically identify and assist individuals that were not using Nabla. And after 6 months, we get to almost 2,000 total users. And it had a big impact on the experience of the clinician. They got even an award for an improvement of 32 points in the clinician experience in the EHR because of Nabla. So that's really, I think, a good example of what can be a successful deployment. If we look at the numbers today, we have more than 2,000 clinicians using it, 45,000 daily visits. We talk about the different improvements and the quality here, but something for us that is obviously very important. One last word on AI governance. Depending on who you are in this call, you may find it super interesting or boring. The reality is that this is something that is top of mind and should be top of mind for everyone. These are non-negotiable that ensure the safe and trustworthy use of AI. Whether this is from proprietary models fine-tuned for healthcare, or making it super easy for your users or your clinicians to share feedback. Um, it's really important to be there. And it's going to be even more important because of the next phase of AI that will start to automate some of the workflows completely. Currently, a lot of the AI that is deployed required the validation of the clinician. Uh, we foresee a world where at some point some of the tasks could be completely automated. So it's very important to have this. We we have been working with the Coalition for Health AI, so CHAI, CHAI. And for instance, we are the first one to publish a model card to share really transparently how we use the model, what type of model we use, how they perform, and so on. And I think uh, my my advice here is that you should, and we expect us, but you should demand as a health system or as a clinician, you should demand this transparency regarding the technologies that are behind the scene, the use of data, how it is used, how is this trained or not. And so this is how do you prevent bias? And so this is very important to be able to have governance as a continuous commitment. If I recap what we went over, here are the 6 basically keys for successful AI implementation. Build trust through transparency and control. Integrate seamlessly into the workflows to reduce the friction and make it easier for adoption. Ensure data fidelity and interoperability so that it can unlock any other workflows and automation of other workflows. Deliver and measure clinical and operational impact and financial impact. Partner to be able to continuously improve the current products and build future-proof developments that will actually work with the next version of AI. And the last one is regarding governance, safety, and ethical boundaries. And I will stop here so that we have time for question. And I hope you enjoy the content of this webinar.
That's great. Thank you so much, Laurent, for bringing us a very comprehensive introductions and descriptions of the system, the deployment, the governance. So I think I can start fielding some of the questions. So my first question would be, what were the biggest gap between the ambient AI system that worked in pilot studies and the one that actually survived real clinical deployment?
I it's probably as I said, it's probably a combination of a few things, but likely the quality, and so the first time experience is very important. And we keep using this, but especially for a technology that is supposed to help you replace some of the things that you were doing as a physician. If the outcome is not really what you would have typed, it's similar to imagine if you have a tool that will summarize any any call that you may have. If you don't like the way it's summarized, then you won't use this tool. And so I think the customization and personalization is probably what is the biggest factor between long-lasting adoption and a successful ambient project versus not. So it's really finding a partner that can really have a solution and a product that can be tweaked, because you know that more than me, Warren, but there is not a single physician or clinician that's likes to document the same way. Even in the same departments, even in the same specialty, two colleagues will have different flavors and will want it to document it a bit differently.
Thank you. So the next question is, are medical schools using Nabla for education and training purposes so far?
That's a great question. So um, I don't know for others, but we are, I think, pretty unique in a way that we provide Nabla for free for residents when we implement our solution. The reality is, and the reason is because we want residents to be educated and to be able to use a technology that we think will be like mainstream in a year or in a few years. And so it's very important to make it, very affordable or free in this case for them to be able to use that. It's interesting because depending on the health system, we see different type of approach. And so we are considering changing, adapting a little bit the product to actually address some of these differences. I remember a few of our clients, they ask, can we let them use the ambient solution except for the assessment and plan? So that's everything that is subjective, objective, for instance, everything that is said by the patient or that you have performed as a physical exam um, would be automatically generated by Nabla. But they want us to, at least for the maybe the third year or fourth years resident, they want us to hide or not generate the assessment and plan to encourage, to make sure that while in their training they learn the technique to actually build the right assessment and plan. And so we see different flavors, but definitely we do think this is very important because, again, we think it's going to be mainstream in the near future. So for us, it's very important to work with residents and making sure that they can access this technology.
Definitely, and also it's very commendable that you made it free for the residents. That's great. So the next question is, from your experience, what are the most difficult aspects of clinical validation of the software?
It's a great question. I think the most difficult aspect it's so when it's about like a billing code, it's easy. It's either the right billing code or not the right billing code, right? So it's super easy to assess it. You can actually go back, to some of the suggestion of code that you made, audit them, with human coders and actually do this. Okay, so that's easy. Here we are talking about documenting, so something that is by nature really can depend on the flavor of the physician. And so some physician they like to have something very concise, others they like to have a full paragraph with everything. And so how do you measure the adherence and the quality of the notes? This is very something that I think is the hardest part here. And so We at Nabla we have a system that we are very strict about the privacy in terms of data and patient data. So we by default we don't store any patient, any notes, whether this is the audio, the transcript of the notes. By default, we never store this. And so this is very important. We have a temporary storage of just the transcription and the note for up to 14 days, but that can be adjusted to 5 days or a bit more if you want, based on the organization. But this is very important to actually have this. And so um, because we don't have the data for privacy reason, how can we actually make sure that we have the right quality of the notes? And so we we do a few things. First, we have models in production. So imagine AI agents in production that look at live during what's a generation of a note. Let's look at it and we'll try to identify whether the notes is not great by actually it's as if you ask someone else in real time to look at what is actually generated and identify whether there are hallucination, whether there is translocation of information, so an information that should not have been in this section because it was said by the patient, and it's now in the objective, and so on. So, and making sure that everything. And so we have these automated agents working in production, looking at this and trying to identify things that may be wrong. When they identify something that is absolutely wrong and they know it, then seamlessly we regenerate the notes behind the scene. So for the clinician, they won't see any impact because except that instead of taking maybe 5 or 6 seconds to generate a note, it will maybe take 12 seconds or 20 seconds because then we will regenerate the notes just after the first one and display the second notes, which will be much better. So we have this type of guardrails. Then we also rely on some of organization and some providers that decided to share anonymized data with us. And then we run some human audits offline. So we have a few percentage of some of the transcript and the note that are anonymized and shared willingly by some of our clients. That then we have a team that is looking at that and trying to identify this. So that's how we make sure that the quality of the AI is good. And I think it will probably expand to any type of AI. What I mentioned first is what we call LLM as a judge. So if you heard LLM as a judge, is basically an LLM, so an AI model that will work as a judge. So his work is a very simple task, such as um, if you taking like this specific word in the notes, can you find any evidence that this word in the notes is somewhere in the transcript? Okay, very simple task for a LLM because it's trivial to it's almost a search, so it's very trivial, right? And so LLM as a judge, if you hear this, you can basically now say that this is just an LLM with a very very small, simple task, but it's very powerful to actually have some guardrails.
That's great. And so it's very interesting that you also mentioned the workflows and the integrating LLMs as a judge. And then the next question I actually asked about one of the previous um, person is that is Nabla appropriate for helping nurses with clinical workflows?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and so it's tied to one of the things that I mentioned earlier. It's yes, definitely, and the reality is that, and if I don't know if we have nurses in this in attendees or not, but usually when I say that they smile. But the nursing documentation is actually much more complex and harder than the doctor documentation. Uh, So in a way, doctor clinical documentation is way simpler because you have many, many different settings for nursing. You have the inpatient settings where it's a mix of flow sheets, so only structured data that you need to extract. You have, some more narrative type of documentation, whether this is an intake or a discharge, or just, end of shift notes with another note. So you have a lot of different ways. You have care management, care coordination. Nabla is used by more than 5,000 nurses actually at one of our clients for care coordination, just making sure that it help nurses that actually call, some of the patients to make sure they follow the treatments after a procedure, and so doing really care coordination or case management. So yes, Nabla supports nursing documentation. Um, I'd like to say that there is a lot of excitement regarding inpatient nursing, specifically flow sheets entry. So for those who are not familiar, a flow sheet entry is basically a big form. It's like a Google form, or any form, with thousands of or hundreds of discrete data. And unfortunately, inpatient nurses have to go through and document in this any encounter that they have or any rounding that they did. They have to actually update this. And so there is a lot of tests currently in how Ambient can help automatically fill this discrete data. The reality is that it's less obvious that it's actually working well for this technology, because it's when you are, at the bedside with a patient. Sometimes with just saying hi and hello, you actually understand a lot of things. And so it's not going to be easy, and we don't want to push, at least at Nabla, to push a change management where nurses will have to verbalize everything. If they have to verbalize everything that's so that it goes into every discrete data, then it's going to add even more burden to them. And so this is really not our objective. So we are trying to see how we can actually simplify this without having to verbalize everything. And so there is a lot of work going on nursing for sure.
That's great to know, and also it's great to know that thousands of nurses have already using Nabla in their clinical workflow. So going forward, so do you see Ambient AI remaining primarily a documentation tool, or maybe evolving towards, let's say, multimodal clinical context regarding the structured EHR data, imaging, beyond speech transcription and text generation? And also, could it evolve into like a real-time clinical co-pilot that influences decisions during the encounter?
Great question. So yeah, we do think that the clinical documentation was just the first step. Again, it was the best, I think, the best first step to create the trust with the physician. And now that we have this trust and we are in their workflow, we have now the opportunity to do much more for them. As you mentioned, it's helping them before the encounter, because we know what happened in the previous encounter. So we can actually summarize it. We can help even draft some of the follow-up, the follow-up note, because we know that you saw these patients already. So preparing the visit, obviously, everything that happened after the visits, such as generating forms. Actually, generating forms sometimes happen during the visits, but orders also happen during the visits. So queuing up orders and helping. What you mentioned at the last point is very important also, is how it can be a real-time copilot. And so I think this is where we are also very excited about in terms of product, is because we're listening and we transcribe live during the visits. We know that after 20 minutes into your visit, you actually started to talk about the knee replacement with the patient. And so we can actually trigger an agent that know that for this patient, Medicare, you are actually exploring maybe a knee replacement surgery. Go grab all the prior authorization criteria for this. Bringing this back to you. in real time so that you as a clinician can actually have some a glance at your phone or at your computer and understand that you are missing one criteria because you haven't asked the patient whether it's really their current condition really prevent them from doing like daily activities or something like as stupid as this, which is one of the condition, right? Um, so that could really help. And we also think that not only can help with ensuring that at the point of care you have this during the visit, but it can also help with clinical decision support. So this is where, again, at real time, when you're talking about a specific procedure or where you are having this, being able to bring content from up to date or from open evidence or from, some trusted sources with, studies and clinical guideline, um, and bring them, in more in a push instead of you having to actually pull for the information. And currently, as you know, Juan, it's up to the physician at some points during or usually after to go open this tool, resets the context. Oh, I just saw this patient, he had this, and this, blah, blah, blah. And so we do think that and we are working on this to bring this technology and bring this real time to the visit.
That's great to know, and also greatly appreciate your forward-looking strategy and a vision towards how all this could evolve into. So this is very exciting. And I noticed that we are almost at the top of the hour. So, Laurent, I want to thank you again for bringing us the state-of-the-art technology and product strategy behind it and how you could deploy that in the clinical environment and what are the factors coming into the deployment decisions and then how to keep evolving and then driving the product-led growth. So this is very informative to the audience. So thank you again.
Thank you, Ryan, for having me. It was a pleasure.